This week, we've got new tools from Milwaukee and DeWALT, and we run into at least two tools I had no idea even existed. This is your Power Tool Week in Review.
Today's episode is brought to you by Ohio Power Tool, Pro Tools, Pro Service at the best prices at ohiopowertool.com.
And Flex, it's what's next.
Welcome back, Power Tool fans. I'm Rob. Sarah's still doing very well on maternity leave, but there's still tool news to get to. Starting with Milwaukee, who revealed a few new tool items this week. Starting with a rolling toolbox that was previously leaked, but with a higher price of $229 than we all thought. They also launched this awesome deep PACKOUT organizer that, as my buddy Eric over at Mechanical Hub said, I've been personally waiting for this box since PACKOUT came out. The deep organizer will be only $65, which everyone seems to agree is fairly reasonable for Milwaukee. Think about that. $65 for a piece of plastic. And we're all like, hey, not bad. Both will be available next month. Now, DeWALT, on the other hand, did not announce any new tools. Instead, they told Lowe's about them, which, as we all know, if you want to keep a tool secret, you tell Lowe's. The Lowe's website suddenly displayed several new tools from DeWALT, including a new 20-volt Max XR brushless recip saw with 3,200 strokes per minute and a 2-finger variable speed trigger, which sounds way dirtier than it is. A new 20-volt 1/4-inch impact, a pair of impact wrenches with 3/8 and 1/2-inch anvils, and most interestingly, a new 12-volt Max Extreme 9/16-inch SDS Plus hammer drill. Our buddy Jim over at PhillyFixed had the same question I did.
On the surface, this seems like it's asking a lot of a 12-volt platform.
You think? Yes, it's only rated at 9/16, but still, I'm anxious to see just how much power they can get out of a tiny 12-volt. Moving over to tool reviews this week, Rob over at Toolbox Buzz shared another one of his popular How's It Still Hangin' series. For the record, that's not what he calls them. I think he calls them lookbacks, but he should call them How's It Still Hangin'. Just saying. This time, he takes a look at both the Gen 1 and Gen 2 versions of the preeminent Milwaukee Sawzall. As Rob points out, the first Sawzall was born 69 years ago, and since then, it's been constantly upgraded and improved. Less vibration, better durability, and of course, more power. The success of the Sawzall has caused the name to evolve into a proprietary eponym, leading to moments like this.
Today we'll be testing 8 different Sawzalls, including one knockoff that only costs $30.
Now, Rob's been using these two saws for several years now and came to the conclusion that you'd likely expect.
Today, the saw still dominates a whole lot of job sites, and I guess some things just get better with age.
You can watch the full recap over at Toolbox Buzz. You know, every time I watch OZToolTalk, I learn something new. Usually it's some vulgar Aussie slang I can use to passively demean my friends, but sometimes it's about tools too. This week the boys did some framing with a 75mm powder actuated gun for concrete and steel from a company called Ramset. They make these guns for blasting up to 4-inch nails into concrete using explosives. Yes, please. Not only does this power through plates and concrete, but it can secure your studs to steel columns. Now, the price isn't insignificant, with the prices of collated nails being triple and the cartridges stacking on top of that, but the insane speed increase is undeniable. Based on the video footage, it's got to be at least 3 times faster than tools, 3 times slower. I feel bad that I have never run across this brand personally, especially considering they're apparently at every World of Concrete. I'll be sure to find them at the next one. Jim over at PhillyFixed discovered that DeWALT decided to upgrade their DCE11B 20-volt fan without telling anyone. No, I don't know why they didn't tell anyone, unless you consider the fact that the upgraded model no longer offers 2 popular features, including a threaded tripod mount and the ability to plug it into an outlet. Jim seemed confused as well. I found comments on Reddit that stated the very box these still come in say that they can be plugged in. Something's wrong. Jim seemed a little upset by the changes, so he took the new fan out back and waterboarded it into an attempt to get the truth. And while it didn't spill the beans, it also didn't stop working, which is nice. In the end, he still suggests you go out and find the old 511B version before they're gone. Now, before we go forward, I need to announce that here at Belts and Boxes, we will no longer be including content from MarkThomasBuilder in our show. This week, Mark apparently took delivery of the only 2-drawer PACKOUT in the country and decided it was a good idea to leave it in the rain. What the Mark. All right, to his credit, after weathering the storm, the PACKOUT actually lived up to the hype, staying perfectly dry inside. Mark then went on to try out just about every Milwaukee tool he has to demonstrate exactly what will fit in the larger PACKOUT drawer set. These drawers have been something that Milwaukee fans have been asking for since day one, which had led to shortages that make it nearly impossible to purchase. The appeal is pretty obvious, as this format is the only PACKOUT option that allows you to access tools and accessories without dismantling your PACKOUT stack. Mark seems pretty happy with his purchase, and I don't blame him. Now this next tool really caught me off guard. The professional torque testers over at the TorqueTestChannel took a tiny step out of their own comfort zone to bring us this. That is the Matco 1/2-inch dual flex angle impact wrench. You're familiar with flex head ratchets, right? Well, this is just like one of those, except it's an air tool with 400 foot-pounds of torque. This guy will get into many places a typical impact wrench simply couldn't reach. The dyno jocks have already tested several right-angled impacts from Astronix, Harbor Freight, and Matco, but this is the first flex head, and I have to admit, that's a cool looking Tino. Of course, with a crazy form factor, you'd expect the numbers to suffer, but in this case, the odd tool came through with an 83% of the advertised torque claim, which is pretty good. You can watch the whole thing over on the Torque Test channel. We're still not done with great reviews this week. Must be something in the water, because Dave over at ManCaverTools got some bigger batteries and decided to let Flex go turbo on its Milwaukee competitor just to see what would happen. Tools and Stuff was caught playing with this ridiculous Hikoki, or Metabo HPT to us Yanks, cordless rebar cutter and bender, and Brian over at WorkshopAddict spent a lot of time pushing the new Makita XGT 5-inch variable speed paddle switch angle grinder to its very limits, only to find it has range to spare. As always, I'll put a link in the description to an article on our website with every video mentioned today embedded in one place. On last week's Tool Talk, we discussed the lack of a universal battery platform in the face of many major brands already sharing their batteries with others. Several of you pointed out brands I'd never heard of that use popular tool batteries. Jacob Botton mentioned Panduit electrical crimping tools that use M18 batteries. Joe Zasada mentioned a lot of fire and rescue tools that use other brand batteries, including ventilation fans, spreaders, cutters, and rams. And finally, John Borton shared a fascinating story about Milwaukee batteries being used to power all of the onboard telemetry in every NASCAR racing vehicle. That's how they get data on the screens and the pointers over the cars. How does he know? Because he chose the batteries himself. Be sure to head over to last week's episode right after this and read the full story for yourself. Last week, we got a peek at an unannounced Makita XGT track saw, which you can watch right here. I want to thank Flex and Ohio Power Tool for sponsoring this episode. Guys, we couldn't do it without you. If you liked this episode, give it a thumbs up, and if you loved it, we hope you subscribe. Now, have a safe weekend, and I'll see you next week.